friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. My name is Crystal, and in today's video, I am going to take you through the process of putting together story number 13 in my December daily album for 2021. This story, the design for this layout actually came from the Product Play 1 class in a lesson taught by Pam Baldwin. So the template that I used in order to create this layout was part of that class. It was a download included in that class, and that's where you would be able to find that. But essentially, there is a photo on the outside here with this spinner circle where I've added my number and an embellishment to the back. And then when you open it up, there are journaling, some story circles, some photo circles, and then the sentiment here on the left. So without further ado, let's go ahead, jump into the process. I'll take you, really there is nothing, there's not a whole lot in terms of the foundation portion, just kind of picking out a couple of embellishments I wanted to hold on to. And then the rest of it was putting the whole page together. So we'll take you through all of that. Once the page is done, we'll slow back down. I'll read my journaling for you, and then we'll call it a day. All right, well, let's get into the process. All right, so jumping into the layout for today, first I'm going to share with you what I did prior to the month of December starting. So this was my quote unquote foundation page, which really isn't much. Basically, I'm just pulling out a couple of different embellishments that I'm considering using inside of this little spinner circle window. And that is essentially it. So just kind of holding on to some things until the day actually arrives. Now that I am fast forwarded to December 13th, where I'm actually putting this one together, I have a photo here of our family, and I guess I should preempt this by saying this is a story about getting our tree. And when we got our tree this year, we actually had one of my friends come, somebody who I met through Instagram, come and take our family photos professionally. I'm so thankful to her. Her name is Tammy, and I will make sure to link her in the description box below in case you're looking for a family photographer in the southeastern Michigan area. So my layout here has a bunch of photos from that session. And then I also have the larger one. So that one is printed at 4 inches by 8¼ inches. And then these circles are roughly 2-inch circles. And those were part of a layer template. So that brings me to the layer template. So this layer template that I used to create this layout was one of the downloads given in the Product Play 1 class. So this whole layout design was created by Pam Baldwin, who taught a lesson in the Product Play 1. So if you're looking for where can you get this, that's where you can get it. Now I did do a couple of things different from her. So first of all, I wanted my layout to fit perfectly outside of a page protector in a 6x8 album. So I sized the entire layout itself to 10.875 inches wide by 8¼ inches tall. When I fold over 4 inches from the end, which is where the window is going to be and also where the family photo is going to be on the back, then that is going to make my layout 6.875 by 8.25 with a 4-inch flap, if that makes sense. So I did do that. Hers was a little bit shorter than 8¼ And then I also put a different sentiment on the left-hand side. The stamp there was a digital stamp from the Product Play 4 class, and it says, even this year we can make magic, which seemed really appropriate for this story and for this year. So a couple of things that I've done here. Number one is to cut the circle out of both the pattern, or not the pattern paper, but the template, the paper where I've got my photos and my text. And I've also cut it out of the photo. I lined those up, so I didn't attach them necessarily together, but I did clip them together. And then I used a circle cutter from Creative Memories in order to position the circle exactly where I wanted it and to trim that out. It ends up being a little bit wider than 2 inches, which actually works out very nice for the embellishments that I choose later, and it allows them to spin in that circle super nicely. Now, when Pam created this layout, she originally did these stitched circles around her journaling, and I really loved the way that that looked. So I wanted to be sure to do that in mine as well. So that's where you saw me pull over my sewing machine and just go around a couple times each of those circle blocks in order to make this look like circles, number one, and then also to give it some texture. I also wanted to add a piece of trim along the outside edge there. In the original layout, Pam did like a border punch that she put in between, and it had this scallop type edge. It was beautiful. I don't have a punch like that, but I thought that instead I could use my pom-pom trim and add that along the edge to give me a little bit of extra interest, and it gives me some texture that way as well. Before I go and adhere the photo onto the back side of this flap here, I do need to do a couple of tasks. First and foremost, I need to grab a piece of twine, and this is just like a neutral colored twine, and stretch it from the top of the circle to the bottom of the circle, attaching it with some adhesive. You could use washi tape to attach it in there. I ended up using a double-sided adhesive because I was afraid that you'd be able to see through the paper to whatever pattern was on my washi tape. So that way I don't have to worry about that. So I want to make sure that it's nice and taut, and then when I add my photo to the other side like that, then I'll be able to use the string in order to adhere my embellishments into the middle of that circle. The other thing I want to do is create some pattern at the bottom of the page. Since mine is a little bit taller than the original design, it leaves this wide gap at the bottom of the entire page itself. And so I want to fill that in, but not all the way. So basically where the sentiment is on the left side, I wanted there to be nothing underneath that in terms of pattern paper. But underneath the grid of 9 circles, I did want there to be a little bit of color to help break up all of that white. So I'm going to debate between 2 different patterns. One is a pattern paper that has a white background with green trees on it, which I chose because my story is all about getting our Christmas tree. So that just seemed appropriate for the story. And then the other piece of pattern paper is, it's like a green on the backside, and it's got some greenery or foliage in a lighter shade of green, and then it also has some red berries on there. It's very, very pretty. Both of those are from Ali Edwards, although I don't remember if they are from the main collection or the add-on pack, but they're definitely part of the 2021 release. So once I have those 2 pieces trimmed out, I believe they are about in maybe 3/4 of an inch tall by 8 inches wide. So that way when we fold the 4-inch flap over, it's completely covered. I debated between doing the pattern paper, or I pulled out some phrase type of die cuts to see if I wanted to put that there. I just knew I wanted something on the bottom and was having trouble figuring out exactly what I wanted that to be. I do have this set of stickers. This was part of the Ali Edwards sticker advent from 2021, and it has a bunch of these phrases on it with a colored border around the sticker. So I pulled off this green one. I don't remember totally what it says, but my guess is something along the lines of making magic. And I'm debating whether to put that on there just on the white or whether to add pattern paper underneath it. I'm sort of liking this setup the best, the sticker with the darker green paper, but I'm not ready to commit to it. So I'm going to set that to the side and work on some other pieces first. That's definitely something I recommend if you are struggling to make a decision. Just work on something else for a little bit and then come back to it with fresh eyes, and that will oftentimes help you make your decision quicker. So then I'm going to take some double-sided adhesive or some score tape from scrapbook.com, add a strip of it along that far edge, and then I'm taking the trim, the pom-pom trim, and attaching it to the backside. So now you're going to see how this trim will poke out from the edge of the page. I really love it. It's so whimsical, and I also love that it's white on top of the white paper, so it's not too like glaring. It just adds a little bit of texture and interest to the page. It's perfect. From there, I decide, yep, I'm gonna go ahead and commit to this dark green paper. So I'll stick that down using my bone folder to just help me crease it in the middle so we get a nice crease without a lot of bulk there. And then I'm also going to put the phrase sticker in the center of that paper as well, which means that it is also going to be folded in half, and that is totally okay. I should mention that the entire page here, where you can see the circle photos, the circle text, and the sentiment, I printed that page on white matte photo paper. And I did that because I wanted my colors to be super vibrant and really clear, but also I knew I was going to be folding this page. So I felt like the creases were going to be a lot nicer if I used matte photo paper versus if I used glossy photo paper. The glossy would get almost like a scratched look to it when I went to fold it. So this section is matte white photo paper, and then the photo that I'm going to adhere on the outside of the flap, that is printed on glossy photo paper. So just in case you're wondering what I used to make this page, that's what I used. So now we're going to take the photo and stick it down on the outside. We are ready to go. So I used that same double-sided adhesive score tape, and I put it all around the perimeter of this flap, and I also put it around the circle element. So that way we don't have any of the pages peeling apart in any of those spots. And my hope is that it will hold the string even tighter if I've got everything adhered down super, super well. So I'm going to pull off all the release tape and then grab my photo and do my best to line it up. For me, I find that if I lined up the corner of the photo and then just made sure that the circle was totally in the right spot, then the rest of it went down really nicely and easily. So that's how this is going to look. I really, 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 really love the design of this page, and I'm so happy that that I went back into that product play class this year and picked this one as one I was going to scrap lift. So now I'm going to make my final decision on what circle embellishment I want to use. I know for sure I'm going to use the plastic circle. It's got these little tiny trees on it. It's perfect. And on top of that, I'm going to put my number 13 for this story. For the opposite side, I was debating between the wood veneer and the rubber piece. The wood veneer here is ultimately what I go with, and I was slightly concerned about being able to see the adhesive through to the plastic side. To counteract that, what I like to do, or what I try to do, is just make sure that I've got adhesive covering the entire section of that wood veneer. So as long as the adhesive is over all of it, when you push it down onto the acetate there, you won't necessarily see the adhesive because everything looks the same. So that's, I guess, my little hack. And then for my number 13 here, this was a black plastic number 13. It either came from an older story kit or it was some kind of add-on that I purchased at some point, but I always pick up numbers when I can because I use them all the time in these daily types of projects. So I grabbed this number 13, I stuck it through a Xyron sticker maker, which essentially just adds adhesive evenly on the backside of whatever piece you're putting into it, peeled that up, and then stuck it down on the circle. So now that's nice and adhered permanently in place. The last thing I want to do here is add some kind of embellishment beneath the title piece there. And I had pulled out a couple of different things to try. The little acrylic truck came from the Target dollar aisle. It was just like a little packet of these trucks. I've also got these plastic and vellum trees that I was going to try out. I've got some felt pieces or some chipboard pieces that I considered, but ultimately I'm going to decide to go with the holly leaves and berries that I tried there earlier on. This was a puffy sticker included in the main Allie Edwards December Daily kit this year, and I'm going to add it at a slight angle just because I like the orientation. So with that done and with everything put into place, I'll bring over my album. We're going to stick it onto the rings and call this one done. All right, friends, well, that completes my layout for today. I hope that you enjoyed seeing how this one came together, and if you did, I would love a thumbs up on this video down below. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you can catch all of my future crafty videos as well. So let's go ahead and dive into the story for this one. So we've got the photo here on the outside, and then on the inside there are 4 photos, and then there are 4 sections of journaling. Now, when I wrote this story, this is a story about getting our Christmas tree. I wanted to write it from the perspective of the Christmas tree instead of from our perspective. Now, this is a story I tell year after year, so I thought this could be a fun way to spice it up this year. So let's get started. You arrived around 4 p.m. to the place I was calling home. The kids got out of the car sleepily after napping a little on the way from school. It took them a minute to warm up, but warm up they did. The sun had been shining all day, and I was trying hard to look my very best. You told Izzy and Jojo that they could pick out their favorite, and I got nervous as they walked around looking. To my surprise and delight, they stopped in front of me, exclaiming that I was the prettiest tree on the lot. I shook with excitement, or maybe that was the breeze, stood a bit taller, and knew I was yours. I now rest in the corner of your living room, beautifully adorned by all of your memories and twinkling with pride. I recently heard you say it finally feels like Christmas here, and that makes me happy. So just a simple story about getting our Christmas tree, some of my favorite photos. I mean, there was a lot of photos. We had a photo shoot for this one. So it was really actually kind of hard to pick which photos I wanted to use. And, that story, we call that story done. So that is going to be it for me today, friends. I will be back here tomorrow again with the next story in this album. So hopefully I will see you then. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye, friends.